D. That's what was being yelled at me in front of my entire team. I played football here, and it was summer conditioning, the most difficult part of the season. Right in the middle of an intense conditioning session, I completely checked out. I was physically there, but mentally gone. And while we were running, I turned and I placed my foot incorrectly. A mindless movement, one done without awareness or intention. Something you wouldn't even notice unless you were paying attention. And of course, the coach was. ATD, attention to detail. Something that I have failed to pay. You see what struck me in that moment of being reamed out in front of my entire team? Was the fact that I didn't even notice that my mind had checked out. Turns out, this happens to all of us. Research suggests that up to half the time, roughly half the time, people are physically here and mentally checked out without awareness. My name's Kris Evans. I'm a psychology researcher and a yoga teacher here at Stanford. These are some of my favorite students, my daughters, while they're practicing. For years, I've been studying the role mindsets play for our health and well-being and performance. I'm really excited to share some of those most recent and most important insights. You see, the most important thing or skill you can have isn't a certain mindset or a way of thinking. It's your ability to recognize you have a mindset in the first place. Your ability to pay attention to how you pay attention. We call it meta-awareness. You see this meta-awareness, as we cultivate it, it starts to help us create space to choose new ways of thinking and being. And as we cultivate this space, you can think about it almost like an inner coach, if you will. Your ability to take a step back and notice what's happening in your mind and body in any given moment. And I want to make sure I delineate the difference when I actually notice the impact of my mind without a coach. It was about a year after I played football. I quit playing sports, quit exercising, because I was pretty burnt out. Didn't want to move anymore. But what I didn't realize was that movement was how I regulated my mind. And so once I stopped, everything shattered. Couldn't focus, couldn't pay attention. Felt like more than 2 seconds. I'd have 50 browser tabs open, couldn't even finish a short email. And this was Palo Alto, our backyard. The epicenter for the attention economy, doing exactly what it does best. Keep me distracted and unfocused, rewarding the next scroll, and keeping me reactive. And so I had to figure out, I was distracted by design and didn't even know it. So I started looking for ways to train my mind. And everything pointed me toward yoga. Not yoga, how you might be thinking about it, but yoga as an inner science. A practice of recognizing and regulating the mind through awareness, through the breath, through movement, and reflection. You see, in yoga, when you're practicing and you notice the mind leaves the present moment, you celebrate it. And you just bring it right back, because that's the rep. It's not the stillness, it's not the movement, not the meditation. the noticing. As yogis, we call that taking the seat of the observer, the watcher. You have to identify with a deeper version of yourself that isn't at the whims of the mind. So you can recognize what the mind does and how it contributes to how you perceive and interpret your reality. I want to make sure now to differentiate between two types of awareness, two qualities and important types of awareness. Mindfulness, which is a present-centered, focused attention in the here and the now. Not just your inner environment, but the outer environment, the people, the things, and the environments around you. And mindfulness is an extremely important quality and state of being. And it's so important that we should all learn how to deliberately activate it and to be present. But the thing is, what enables you to recognize when the mind is not present is meta-awareness. So when you're mind wandering, it's the awareness that alerts you and says, hey mind, come right back here. We don't know what just happened over the last 30 seconds. You bring it right back. The key distinction between mindfulness and meta-awareness is that our meta-awareness is atemporal. That means it doesn't have to be present-centered. You can use meta-awareness to deliberately reflect on the past so you can integrate and learn from it, synthesize it, as opposed to being consumed by the past in a memory. You can use your meta-awareness to project and plan for the future on purpose, with intention, instead of being dragged there by anxiety. And as you cultivate this type of space, it builds an important type of psychological flexibility. Meta-awareness includes the conscious or explicit awareness of everything happening in the conscious experience. The thinking, the feeling, the sensing, the behaving. We do a lot of this stuff without awareness. And you can tune in and practice this anytime, any moment. So right now, just check in. What's happening in the mind? What's happening in your body? What's happening in your heart? And as you practice this on purpose, you start to be able to just notice what the mind is up to from time to time. What is it doing? And you practice regulating where it goes. Turns out, this type of meta-awareness is associated with greater health, well-being, and performance across the board. Greater meta-awareness is associated with improved mental and emotional well-being and regulation. And it seems to be particularly tied to regulating our attentional processes, widening them and shrinking them so you can focus and pay attention. Now, the trick is to do it deliberately, intentionally, instead of reactively or reflexively, which we all experience. So to purposefully tune in from time to time, just what's happening in the experience. And as you cultivate that space, that's how you start to recognize the role the mind plays in your perception. And our meta-awareness also happens to be the key that unlocks our mindsets. Your mindsets are core beliefs that shape how you think, how you act, how you feel in self-fulfilling ways. So a stress mindset, the belief that stress is either enhancing or debilitating. And our beliefs make it so. A growth or a fixed mindset sees an intellectual challenge as a threat or an opportunity to learn. The same situation, different lens or a different mindset, leads to drastically different outcomes. And the key thing is, our meta-awareness is what allows you to notice what's happening. It moves you from just experiencing mindsets to being able to name them, to be able to see how they're affecting you, and even to be able to consciously cultivate new ways of thinking. And as you practice this and you cultivate it more and more, it seems to enable us to actually recognize the role our beliefs are playing in our world and even disrupt the unhealthy ones, providing space. Now, you practice this skill on the mat as a yogi so you can use it off the mat. And I was curious, can we use this ability to enhance well-being, mindsets, and awareness in people going through a stressful time? So for one of my studies in my dissertation, I decided to recruit 220 people preparing for the bar exam, the California bar exam, considered the most difficult one out there. Has a 50% pass rate. It's 2 days long. Months of dread, anxiety, worry, depression leading up to it. And so we randomized people to one of three conditions. A stress mindset only condition. These folks engaged in a stress mindset training that was very effective, about an hour long, something we know works. The second group did the stress mindset training plus yoga, which included 4 sessions that were 1 hour long over 4 weeks, integrating the mindset and yoga-based practices. The third group, our inactive control, just prepared for the bar exam as usual. Now this was a rigorous randomized controlled trial, gold standard. We checked in with these people 5 times over 10 weeks, including 1 week right before the bar exam and 1 week right after. This is a pretty high-stakes situation. I mean, you can't continue on with your career unless you pass this test. And most of these folks have been working for several years toward this goal. And not only is this goal transformational for their own life, but it's often transformational for the people around them. And oh yeah, stress and anxiety predicts lower performance. And these folks are contending with disproportionate levels of mental illness and ill-being. So they're contending with a lot. And it's precisely these situations that make us less mindful and more reactive and more reliant on automatic or old established ways of thinking and being, even when they no longer serve us. Let me share a little bit of a story about a participant who sent me a message right after her bar exam. She did the mindset yoga training, and this was the second time she had taken the bar. So she failed. But this time around, she said she felt like an entirely different person. You see, her relationship with stress had shifted. When stress surged, and it did, she had practiced so many times on the mat, noticing it in her body, that she was able to pay attention before it took over her thinking. She'd feel it in her belly, chest tightening, jaw squeezing, take a deep breath to be present. She noticed what's happening in the mind and the body. She started to notice a similar story, a narrative For her, it was that she's a failure and she can't handle the stress. But this time, instead of buying the story, she just noticed it. She thought about it as one potential interpretation of her experience, but she didn't just take it as a fact. And in that process, in that practice, she's able to get a little bit more space, which stops that automatic narrative, that automatic story, that old way of thinking and being from taking over. The inner coach was doing its job, providing the space, the clarity to show up with awareness as your best self. Now, our data and our analysis support that story. I'm going to walk you through this. But what we're looking at is a slide that shows that increases in meta-awareness drove improvements across all of our outcomes. This slide shows our indirect effects, which is an effect that reflects how mindset yoga training produced the outcomes. Mediation. And so improvements in meta-awareness over time drove improvements in things like our mindsets about control and stress, fixed abilities. It drove improvements in experiences of flourishing, increased positive emotions, drastic decreases in depression, anxiety, stress, mood and anxiety symptoms. We even saw increased improvement in mental, emotional, and behavioral regulation. So this is what that means. People were deliberately reporting that they were using their mindsets as a source of energy, as a source of regulation. They reported being able to use a particular mental technique called reappraisal, which is rethinking the situation in a way that's positive and helpful. They reported engaging in healthier behaviors and coping, things like exercising, socializing, sleeping better, and even eating healthier. You see, cultivating this awareness allowed folks the space to show up as their best self. As we zoom out, this slide starts to show the experiences over 10 weeks, showing up, the impact of showing up with awareness. And so at the bottom, you see the control group. Sharp decreases in awareness, well-being, mindsets, the typical reaction to stressful experiences and moments. And I don't know about you, but it's hard to show up and perform your best when you feel like crap. The second group, our mindset only, showed that this is important. The ways you think about the world matter, particularly our mindsets about stress. But the biggest gap, the biggest improvement, we'll call that the meta-awareness gap, emerged for our mindset yoga training, which we see that those improvements in meta-awareness drove flourishing across the board. So they went from way down here to way up here. It's a little bit easier to show up as your best self when you can think clearer, you feel better physically and emotionally. Let me take you back to the football field. ATD is not a football story. It's a human story. More than ever, we're physically present and mentally checked out, especially for the moments that matter the most. And if you really tune in, it's all of them. All the moments matter. So luckily, you can train your ability to show up with awareness just like a muscle. And I encourage you to do this short, quick practice. Notice, name, and choose. Notice in the present moment what's happening in your mind and your body. And this is not to change anything. It's just to check in. What's happening here? Second, start to name the stories, the narratives that you notice. Now, as you do that more often, you're going to notice similar themes, threads, your expectations making you feel a certain way, a belief about someone or something. The whole goal is to start to practice naming that story and not seeing it as a fact, not objective, just one potential interpretation of the experience. That's important. And the final step, choose. Learn how to deliberately choose how you want to show up right here, right now. So connect to a particular value that can enable you to show up how you want to actually show up. And this is not about being perfect. It's about being intentional. Like a yogi, moving with awareness. And as you practice moving with awareness in times of sorrow or even joy and everything in between, that's how you build that muscle, that meta-awareness skill, which will inevitably allow you to show up as your best self when it matters most. So let me leave you with one little reminder to tune in, pay attention to how you pay attention, and let the magic unfold. Thank you and namaste.